but also leaders in the All People's Congress, to name Dr. Richard Conte, Honorable Usman Abdel Tibu, Adi Macaulay Esquire, and several legal representatives. And so as you debate this clause today, we also want to provide additional guidance from these broad consultations as well as from the views of this technical committee, including that the language in this particular clause is strengthened to reflect that persons representing these groups will be directly nominated by these groups before being appointed by His Excellency the President. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the clause prescribes minimum educational qualifications, professional competence, and integrity requirements for both the Chief Electoral Commissioner and other commissioners of the Electoral Commission. These qualifications are intended to strengthen professionalism, institutional competence, and public confidence in the electoral management body. Finally, the clause introduces staggered tenure for commissioners to preserve institutional memory, avoid simultaneous replacement of all commissioners, and enhance continuity in electoral administration. Amendment of Section 34 relating to Political Parties Registration and Regulation Commission. This clause restructures the appointment process for the chairperson of the Political Parties Registration and Regulation Commission. The principal objective is to enhance the Commission's independence by introducing a search and nomination committee broadly representative of civil society. The clause also maintains representation of key institutions, including the National Electoral Commission, Sierra Leone Bar Association, and the Sierra Leone Labour Congress, thereby strengthening institutional collaboration while preserving regulatory independence. The amendment seeks to improve public confidence in the impartial regulation of political parties. Amendment of Section 35, Women's Political Participation. This clause constitutionally guarantees that not less than 30% of a political party's nominees for national and local government elections shall be women. The amendment builds upon CIN's commitment to gender equality and seeks to increase women's participation in governance and political leadership. It demonstrates the government's commitment to inclusive democracy and aligns with regional and international obligations promoting women's representation in public office. As has been stated already, whilst this requirement exists in statute, it is fitting that the same provision or requirement be reflected in our country's supreme law, the National Constitution. Amendment of Section 38, Election of Members of Parliament. This clause introduces several reforms concerning parliamentary representation. It clarifies the authority of the National Electoral Commission, subject to parliamentary approval, to determine the allocation of parliamentary seats. The clause also provides that only the most recent decennial census shall be used in determining the allocation of parliamentary representation, thereby ensuring that seat distribution reflects reliable and nationally accepted demographic data. Importantly, where the final census result is published within 24 months preceding a general election, the new census data will not be used for the purpose of that election. This safeguard prevents late demographic changes from disrupting electoral preparations and promotes electoral stability. The clause further reinforces the constitutional requirement that at least 30% of the party's nominees be women. The repeal of the amended clause, Section 38A of the Constitution. This clause repeals Section 38A of the Constitution. The repeal is intended to remove constitutional provisions that are no longer necessary following the restoration of the permanent electoral framework established by this bill. Amendment of Section 41. This clause permits independent candidates to contest presidential elections. The amendment broadens political participation by recognizing that citizens who are not affiliated with political parties should nevertheless be able to seek elective office provided they satisfy statutory requirements relating to eligibility. The amendment enhances political pluralism whilst preserving safeguards against frivolous candidates. Amendment of Section 42 of the Constitution, Election of President. The clause introduces comprehensive reforms to the constitutional framework governing the election of President. The amendments are intended to provide greater clarity, legal certainty, enhance electoral legitimacy, strengthen judicial oversight of the electoral process, and minimize ambiguity in the declaration of presidential results. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I also must add that this is one clause that has generated significant debate across the country because it now proposes to move Sierra Leone from the 55% threshold, which traditionally has put this country in a position to embark on runoff elections. And so, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, after extensive consultations, including by the technical team, we will propose that this particular clause be reviewed to reflect that the candidate will be declared winner of a presidential election if that candidate polls a majority vote of 50 plus 1% of the votes cast. This, of course, we note, whilst the proposal does not completely eliminate the chance of a runoff election, it significantly reduces the chance of getting into a runoff, while still ensuring that the president elected to serve this country benefits from the majority mandate of the voting populace. The rest of the clause lays out windows within which persons dissatisfied with the elections can file petitions. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we also propose an amendment to Section 39 of the Constitution. It provides that where a president resigns from or is expelled by the political party under which he was elected, Parliament may, by resolution supported by a two-thirds majority of all members of Parliament, remove the president from office. The amendment seeks to balance party discipline with constitutional accountability, ensuring that removal does not occur automatically, but only following parliamentary consideration supported by constitutionally significant majority. Mr. Speaker, the bill also proposes an amendment to Section 54 of the Constitution, which also has to do with party membership for both the President and the Vice President, and by extension an amendment of Section 55, which specifically focuses on the removal of the Vice President. Mr. Speaker, what these proposals seem to accomplish is to ensure that a political party that institutes disciplinary proceedings against a serving president or vice president does not carry the mandate to reverse an election outcome, but that the only procedure by which a president or vice president can be removed from office if they are disciplined by their political party is to trigger the already established provisions in our Constitution on parliamentary and judicial oversight. The amendment ensures These amendments ensure consistency between the constitutional treatment of the offices of President and Vice President while preserving Parliament's constitutional oversight role. The amendment ensures that removal from office occurs only after broad parliamentary consensus, thereby safeguarding constitutional stability and protecting the democratically elected President or Vice President. We propose an amendment of Section 74, the composition and election of Parliament. Clause amends Section 74(1)(b) of the Constitution to provide a clearer constitutional framework for election of members of Parliament through a system of proportional representation. The amendment empowers Parliament to prescribe by legislation the number of members of Parliament to be elected under the proportional representation system and the detailed procedures governing nominations, allocations of seats, and the conduct of elections. The principal objective of this amendment is to place the broad constitutional principle within the Constitution, whilst allowing the operational details of the electoral system to be regulated by an Act of Parliament. This approach provides flexibility for Parliament to respond to future electoral reforms without the need for repeated constitutional amendments while preserving the constitutional foundation of the electoral system. This amendment also promotes legislative certainty by clearly distinguishing constitutional principles from matters of electoral administration. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, kindly allow me to say a bit more about this proposal. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, as I noted earlier in my statement, this was a proposal first made by the Justice Edmond Kawan Constitutional Review Committee, which in 2017, in its 2017 report, recommended that proportional representation should be included in the revised constitution, and so Section 74(1) should be amended to reflect this. Mr. Speaker, government has accepted this proposal. A significant percentage of our country's population has accepted this proposal. But Mr. Speaker, it is always good to benefit from international best practices. Mr. Speaker, the majority of the world's democracies practice some form of the proportional representation system. Matter of fact, more than 130 countries across the world use either proportional representation or a mixed system. Less than 55 of the countries in the entire world use the first past the post system. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, of the 10 ranked countries on the Human Freedom Index of 2024, an index which measures 86 indicators of personal and economic freedoms, 9 of those 10 are countries that use the proportional representation system. Similarly, 9 of the 10 countries ranked or classed as full democracies on the Democracy Index of 2023, which is based on 5 categories: electoral processes and pluralism, the functioning of government, political participation, political culture, and civil liberties. 9 out of 10 of these countries use proportional representation. So there is significant best practice across the world that we can benefit from. But we also note that concerns have been expressed about the challenges with the proportional representation system. And when the technical team got together, comprising representatives of the government of Sierra Leone and representatives of the All People's Congress, but also in consultations with the other registered political parties represented by the All Political Parties Association, APA, it was clear that we can address these challenges that have been identified with the proportional representation system. That is because together we all took note of the benefits of the proportional representation system, noting that it strengthens national cohesion. Because in our current political climate, replete with regional and ethnic divisiveness, proportional representation will help build national cohesion and enhance unity by limiting party strongholds, as parties will have the potential to win a seat anywhere in the country. It restricts the growth of regional fiefdoms because PR systems reward minority parties with a minority of seats. They are less likely to lead to situations where a single party holds all the seats in a region or a district. This can be particularly important to minorities in areas which may not have significant regional concentrations of party supporters. It reduces electoral violence. The proportional representation system has evidently proven to reduce political tension and violence, primarily because it does not create an environment where political parties will clash. In PR systems, by-elections are not held to fill vacant seats in parliament. Vacancies are filled by the next in line on the list of endorsed candidates submitted by the political party. Because this process does not require an election which will bring political parties together to fight for a seat, it helps reduce political tension and violence. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, after the 2018 elections, 2 persons were reportedly killed and dozens of others were seriously wounded in violent clashes during by-elections. Before the 2018 elections, we all recall also what happened with by-elections in Sogoma Chibom in Pudong districts, where people were even forced to flee across borders. And noting, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, following the 2023 elections, the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone has been able to fill several vacancies in Parliament without any political tension or violence. The Commission has also filled several seats at the local council level without political tension or violence. Mr. Speaker, we also note the cost effectiveness for a country like Sierra Leone that has to take difficult decisions on resource allocation. Because in a proportional representation system with no by-election, the PR system proves to be much cheaper in comparison to the first past the post system. This has saved the country significant amount of money that would otherwise be spent on conducting elections. Mr. Speaker, the data with ECSL shows that a parliamentary by-election on average costs 2 million new euros. If you want to understand it better in the context of old leones, it's 2 billion old leones. Whilst a by-election for a councillor will cost this country on average of 600,000 new leones. That's 600 million new leones. a chairperson by election costs an average of 400,000 new loans to conduct. In old loans, that's 5.5 billion in 400 million we're talking about. So in a country that has to take difficult decisions, saving these amounts of money is important. Because for this government, it means we have been able to keep more kids in schools across this country through the free quality education. It means we have been able to provide health care to more pregnant women and lactating mothers across the country. It means governments can invest more in food security and reduce our dependence on food imports. So the PR system is therefore the most cost-effective electoral system suitable to Sierra Leone, but also it is best practice in the majority of the democracies across the world. Mr. Speaker, it is also important to address wastage of votes. Unlike the first past the post system, where a candidate is elected with a small number of votes, leaving all other votes unused, the PR system uses most of the votes cast in determining percentage of seats won. When thresholds are low, almost all votes cast in the PR system go towards electing a candidate of choice. This increases voters' perception that it is worth making the trip to the polling station at election time, as they can be more confident that their vote will make a difference to the election outcome, however small. Mr. Speaker, we have said a lot about how the PR system will also increase women's participation. Proportional representation is much more guaranteed to increase women's political participation, representation in parliament and local councils. With the current legal framework in the BillJULY Act and the provisions in Section 58 of the Public Elections Act, proportional representation is best placed to easily implement these legal provisions and yield expected results. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me share some data. Since we enacted the 1991 Constitution, or let's say under this 1991 Constitution, Sierra Leone has held 6 democratic elections. In 3 of these elections, we have practiced first past the post. That is 2007, 2012, and 2018. And in 3 of these elections, we have practiced proportional representation. 1996, 2002, and 2023. The data shows that each time we practice the first past the post system, the percentage of women's representation stays down. And each time we practice the proportional representation system, the percentage goes up. In 1996, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, in 1996, with the nationwide PR system, women's representation stood at 6.3%. In 2002, when we applied the proportional representation system again, there was an increase to 14.5%. And then in 2007, we went back to the first past the post system, and the percentage reduced to 14.3%. And then in 2012, when we practiced the first past the post system, the percentage went further down to 12.4%. And then 2018, first past the post, the percentage went further down to 12.3%. And finally, in 2023, so let's be honest, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, if we are to be informed by data, the data shows that we can show more commitment to increasing women's participation in our political process by agreeing to permanently use the proportional representation system. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we understand that questions have been raised about electoral accountability. And Mr. Speaker, we have made several proposals that will go into legislation on how we ensure that there are sufficient safeguards. Matter of fact, as a technical committee that have consistently referred to comprising representatives of the government and the All People's Congress, the committee has even made further recommendations to ensure that through the proportional representation system, we have safe seats for women. And through a list system, both the A and the B list, to ensure that as part of this system, if a woman, member of parliament, needs to be replaced, that replacement must be a woman. That is the recommendation from the technical committee, made up of representatives of the government of Sierra Leone and the All People's Congress Party. Mr. Speaker,
I came to Parliament without fear. I'm a first person, and I'm coming back.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, moving on, we also propose an amendment of Section 76 of the Constitution, which has to do with qualifications and disqualifications for election of members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, for some time, by way of interpretation of Section 76, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora who remain engaged in Sierra Leone, who continue to make significant investments in this country, have been limited when it comes to political participation. So that is why we propose an amendment to Section 76, specifically the provision that persons, Sierra Leoneans by birth, by implication, Sierra Leoneans by birth, who for one reason or the other hold citizenship of some other country, cannot run for elected office in Parliament. We propose, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, that this provision be reviewed and that safeguards be put in place, including the fact that such a person with a citizenship in addition to being Sierra Leonean by birth establishes strong ties to the country, including the proof of payment of local taxes, possibly for 5 years preceding the election, a proof of physical residence in the country, possibly for a minimum period of 24 months, to be allowed to participate meaningfully in the political process in Sierra Leone and being able to run parliament. Mr. Speaker, under the same provision, we have also proposed that certain categories of public officers whose position require them to resign at least 12 months before being able to run for an election, that period be reduced to 6 months. Section 76. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, under this qualification, we have also proposed a list of offences for which, if an individual has been convicted and has served jail time, that those convictions for those offences become disqualifiers to run for parliament. These include treason, murder or manslaughter, rape or sexual penetration, fraud, corruption or offences involving dishonesty, elections-related offences, or any other offense carrying a sentence exceeding 12 months. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the amendment preserves the constitutional right to appeal by providing that no disqualification shall take effect until the appeal process has been exhausted or the period for appeal has expired. This strikes an appropriate balance between safeguarding the integrity of Parliament and protecting the constitutional rights of individuals. Having said this, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I wish to move that the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2025 be read the second time.
Thank you very much, Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Honorable members, at this stage, I wish to recognize the presence of our former colleagues that are here this morning in the visit to this house. Let me start by mentioning the name of Honorable Swahilo Kroma, former member of Parliament. Yes, Honorable Uroti Jallo. Honorable Amadou Fofana. Honorable Dauda J.B. Kalon. Honorable Alhaji Ibrahim Kemosisi. Honorable Alusan Alu Conte. Brother Charles. You are all heartily welcome to the House of Parliament. Then Honorable Johnson. Let me also recognize the presence of Mr. Robert Kondima, Deputy National Chairman. Yes, I recognize the presence of, another former honorable member, Honorable Usman I. Kano, Alpha Khan. I recognize the presence of Honorable Jared Smith. I also recognize the presence of Mr. Mohammed Rabuswari, Minister of Labour and Social Security. I recognize the presence of Dr. Emmanuel Gaima. I recognize the presence of Dr. Richard Conte. I recognize the presence of Mr. Lansana Dumbuya, National Secretary. I recognize the presence of Mr. Dr. Kefana Mara, Chief. I recognize the presence of Mr. Usman I. Kanu, Solicitor General. Madam Martina Bindu Ebenda, the Administrator General. I recognize the presence of Mr. Daniel D. Kaitabi, Executive Director. I recognize the presence of Madam Zainab Mosiri, Electoral Commissioner, Western Region. I recognize the presence of a strong lady, Madam Hawa Kori, National Women. I recognize the presence of Madam Masala Samba, Executive Director. I recognize the presence of Mr. Ngoloti Kata. Mr. Ngoloti Kata, where is it? You're welcome. Okay, we proceed. For now, honorable members, the question is that the bill entitled
Join the Magic TV team. Magic TV, Sierra Leone's trusted information hub, is inviting applications from energetic, results-oriented, and self-motivated individuals to join our growing team as a marketer. Applicants will be responsible for marketing Magic TV's advertisement opportunities and sponsorships packages, promoting the station's television.
Act 2024.
role in this historical event. If we carefully look around today, we can hardly find those that were here in the rainy season of 1991. They made history, and we are going to make history too. What we are going to do today is to put Sierra Leone first. And I don't see regions, I don't see tribes. I was born in the western area to a father from Mambolo Chiefdom, Kambia district. My mom was born in Port Loko district. I started schooling in the western area, schooled in Bombali district, schooled in Kailau district, lived in Kalema district, schooled in Bo district. And in Bo district, I met friends from Bujong, Bon, Moyamba, and even Kabbalah district. I am a Sierra Leonean. On 1st July 1991, Parliament passed the 1991 Constitution. September 24th, 1991, it was assented by the President. October 1991, it commenced. So, they did their best to bring this document. Like the AG said, it's not the ceiling, it's the foundation, and it's that foundation we are tasked to deal with today. Mr. AG, I want to thank you very much, together with the team, for bringing this journey this far. And I want to assure you that we'll all walk out of this room as proud Sierra Leoneans.
You know, presidential candidate will debate nationally.
You're trying to solve problems. Especially with 32-3. I have people talking about sole executive power. The intention is a good one. But I'm afraid, let's don't try to solve a problem and open up more problems. Because when I look at the list that we have, in terms of those that are going to form this committee, I'm worried. What if some of these groups that will eventually be listed cease to exist? Who makes the final decision to determine who should belong to that particular committee? So really, Mr. AG, you have to convince me to some point that we can be fine with this. Otherwise, I see no problem with our current provision.
Yes.
The only problem we've experienced in this world,
the
only problem we've experienced in this world has been the issue of consultation. That meaningful dialogue of good faith. That's what we've experienced. So if the problem you are trying to solve of sole executive power will open up more problems to ensure that we have political hotbeds in some of those institutions, I'm afraid we have to keep the current provision and then define consultation.
Yes.
You see, we've used 32.3, or with 32.3, we've seen power moved from SLPP to ABC. Nobody complained. From ABC to SLPP.
Everyone complained. They complained.
Complaints all over the place. But again, in the name of national cohesion, in the name of national unity, inclusive politics, AG, let's go back to the current provision and keep consultation and ensure that it's a structured dialogue with good faith to ensure that we nominate the right people. I know people haven't talked about that much, but I'm worried about an example that's already set in Sierra Leone. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, age is very important in terms of determining sometimes how qualified somebody is. But at the same time, competence, integrity, and of course, knowledge also matter. When you look around Africa, there are some countries, Nigeria, Liberia, Namibia, and others. When it comes to the Electoral Commission, they have a minimum threshold in terms of age. If we look around the sub-region, it's only Sierra Leone that created a ceiling of 65 years. So the question is, or the fundamental question is, why do we want to limit a qualified person full of knowledge and experience because they are 65? Even to become a president, you must attain the minimum threshold. You attain the age of 40 years. You go to Liberia, an ordinary commissioner, you start by an ordinary commissioner at the age of 35 upwards. So I'm bringing it here. Let's rethink, because we are the people. We are not always right, but we take those in terms of taking the lead. Not only to lead by example, but lead by good example, so that the Sierra Leonean spirit will prevail. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to commend the Attorney General on behalf of the government for taking the realities that we achieved from the BillJULY Act to the Constitution in terms of protecting women's empowerment. We jubilated the passing of the BillJULY Act, but I think the women need more. I will attempt to talk a little bit for them because I know we have strong and competent women who will make their case heard. But again, I want to commend you on that. We'll move from just allowing that aspect to be in an act, but now in the Constitution. And I strongly believe, I have that feeling that the women are going to demand more than 35%. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, clauses 4A and B are very simple and straightforward, self-explanatory. These are all just preparatory events for us to have better elections. I think the AG did very well on that. But I just want to go to C and D. It talks about the decennial census. Up-to-date data is very important for credible elections. We don't have to do things in a rush. But I strongly believe with this provision, when we have recent data published 24 months before data, it prevents so many things. Political manipulation that die in minutes gives the Electoral Commission the opportunity to clearly define boundaries and then, of course, elevate the election preparedness. So I think that's a provision we have to take, because it's very important that the institution charged with the responsibility of conducting our election have ample time to gauge the political measurement and, of course, the political competitiveness. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, you see, I can't stop thanking the AG for the good work. And in fact, I think I must extend that to his predecessors. Again, today we think Sierra Leone. Active participation and total involvement. It is not an SLPP affair, but it's an all Sierra Leonean affair. So to the predecessors, I extend sincere thanks to you for the hard work that you put into this one. At least he is fortunate to be here to push this journey this far. It's clear in our constitution. You can pursue, an individual can pursue the presidency. But you must do that under an organized political institution. I don't know, AG, if you've thought about the kind of box we are going to open by allowing this independent candidate. It's scary. The majority of our democracy is still low to accommodate independent candidates for the position of presidency. Yes, it is their right. It is. But then we have opened the room for personal or ego politics. We are opening the room to weaken party discipline. We'll have instances wherein when somebody fails to secure nomination from a party, the next thing that person will do, and they will run against this party. Yes, so you see, I support political participation at all levels, but political participation to the highest office, the highest executive office, must really be checked. How are we going to determine who is really capable to be an independent candidate? The PPRC is doing well to ensure that they go through the financial records and all other records of the political parties. It's going to be a tall order in doing that for independent candidates. Mr. Attorney General, I think is something we really have to think about again. Now, I heard the voices in the room when the AG spoke about the threshold. I know we are traditional people. We cling to the things we are used to, the things that we are comfortable with. But sometimes we have to open up. In this new era of responsibility, we also have to be innovative in our thinking. We have to adjust to the current trends. So what we are saying here, if you elect a president from 50 plus 1, that president already secured the confidence of half of the electorate. Why do you need a supermajority? Why do you need a supermajority? Some kind of an extra hurdle. 50 plus 1 wins the hearts and minds of more than half of the public. We don't need that. Talking about the 20% issues, we are not in a federation, Mr. Anthony General. I think that might work well in a federation where you expect the 2/3, the 20%, 2/3 from whatever electoral district. No. Let's reduce the political violence, reduce other unnecessary political tensions. Let's save costs from runoff. There are other challenging developmental issues we have to pay attention to. AG, when we look at page 9 under the clauses 7D8, I'm sure the intention there was 7 days, because I said 3 days, but the intention there was 7 days. I want to believe so. Because 3 days would not be enough to put together petition papers to file into appeal. So I strongly believe that might be some kind of oversight or type of, but again, if that's the case, I submit that we bring it to 7 days, because I think the candidate or whosoever the aggrieved person will be in a better position to do their homework in order to file a strong petition to make their case. Clause 14. You see, the question before us is not whether Sierra Leoneans must have 1 or 2 citizenship, or 1 or 2 passports. The question is whether a Sierra Leonean who has lawfully acquired citizenship in another country must be denied serving his country through government or parliament just because they acquired that nationality, that citizenship. Mr. Speaker, that will be very difficult to justify. It will be very difficult to justify. Let's look at the contribution. The AG highlighted the contribution of the diaspora. So are we saying it is okay to spend your money? It is okay to send your money to your people there. It is okay to bring investment to this country. It is okay to help the community. But then it's not okay to serve your people in parliament.
Everyone clap.
Dual citizenship is a legal status. It's not a sign of divided loyalty. It's not a sign of two hearts. We must not confuse the possession of another passport to be hatred for Sierra Leone. They might have gone out there as a result of brain drain, but when they return, it will be an issue of brain gain. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Members, they are Sierra Leoneans. Let's give them an opportunity. If it's okay for them to invest in this country, if it's okay to send remittances, if it's okay to support their communities, I think it's also okay for them to serve as member of parliament and also bring Again, it's not going to be a blank check, Mr. AG. Of course, there must be safeguards for that. And I believe that will come up as we progress. There are some other issues that you really clarified that I won't belabor on. Of course, the amendments in 43.1 and 43.2, of course, they're all well in place. But then I want to draw your attention to clauses 11 and 12, wherein you said the president or vice president. You explained the point clearly, but I think in clause 11, we have to remove the area of president, because when you look at the amendment itself, 54 is talking about the vice president. So we have to be very consistent there. Then again, the wording in clause 12, wherein following his resignation or expulsion from the party. I know, yes, it's about expulsion, but again, if we even in our constitution, the 1991 constitution, I think you can hardly find the word expulsion there. We talk about his removal. So I just want you to consider that as well, because expulsion will be, yes, maybe that's the intention to send a strong signal, but then I think it will be too strong to survive there. The issue of 6 months. That issue is not new in this parliament. It came here before. We responded to it. And it's here again. We respond to it. The son of a soldier from Cambia district, I recommend that we stick with the 12 months. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, AJ, I want to draw your attention to page 16. I think just before section 15, clause 15, where you mentioned the Local Government Act 2004. I think we'll move beyond that 2004 Local Government Act. Pay attention to that as well. I think we have to incorporate the most recent one. Then I thank you for the reconsideration to expunge the entrenched clauses 15 and 16, and I think we are on the right track. Again, the professionalism of the military and the police will be welcomed by every level-headed Sierra Leonean who wants the betterment of this country. So it's our responsibility to ensure that we help this election management body to be as professional as possible. I also welcome that particular those particular provisions. I want to draw now under the consequential clauses. There is something that struck my attention in I think on page 21. You see, there is a continuous mention of fifth schedule. 3A issued is successful candidate certificate of election in Form D set out in the fifth schedule. We have to be specific. Because if you look at the Constitution, it doesn't have a fifth schedule. And the fifth schedule of the Public Elections Act that you have currently, understand, is only A, B, C, and D. But again, if we want to make our point very clear, we have to be specific. Fifth schedule of what specific legislation? Let's pay attention to that particular aspect. Now I come to the elephant in the room. You know, I've had so many analysts on radio, TV, and some other places talking about the proportional representation. You see, the true measure of an honorable member is not about his electoral boundaries. It's about his legislative capacity, his representation, and his advocacy. And today, we're still here being haunted by the ghost of the 1978 Constitution, positioning MPs as those who take development to the people. But today, I will say it clear here. Let's stop deceiving our people. Under first past the post, the traditional role or the fundamental role of a member of parliament is to make laws, represent and oversight. Under proportional representation, they are the same role. What has changed? Only MPs who want to judge their people, use proportional representation as an excuse. They use it as an excuse. Take Western area for example. 16 members of parliament. We all have collective responsibility as district representatives. If you bring problem to me, I can't solve it. You have an option of 15 other members of parliament. It forces dialogue. It forces dialogue. I hear the criticism, the people don't know who represents them. It's not an issue of the electoral system. It's an issue of civic education. It's an issue of civic education. NEC and other bodies can educate the members on who their members of the public on who their members of parliament are. MPs don't have offices and all of this, but this is the people's house. The oath we took here, we never took that oath to only go and represent the constituency. We represent the If members fail to engage their constituents, their districts, it's an issue of internal party measures to create strong accountability measures. Let's don't use it as an excuse. The Constitution does not reduce the role of MPs to take local development projects. MPs take loans to go fund these development projects and we end up dying poor.
And they know it's true, they are not doing this one. You know it's true. You know it's true.
The executive and the local councils, they take.
Zenith.
We used to have
Zenith one.
Brought their future to the present.
Yes. Yes, true. You know it's true.
Doing this job that is not our job. Why are we using this cost of 1978 to outdo our opponents and we keep suffering inside? That's the problem we have here. Like for most MPs now, they don't even reside in the constituencies they were before. During first past the post, I resided in 28 Eyebrow Street, Murray Town. Under proportional representation, I'm still there. They come in the morning, they meet me, I solve their problems, whatever I can, humanitarian problems. But at the same time, you understand, I never cease advocating for them. And today in Morristown, we're enjoying one of the best roads in Western area. I can't go there. So what we have here is this. The question, the fundamental question we have is this. Which system promotes national cohesion. Which system promotes national unity? Which system creates one Sierra Leone? I hope I'm not shouting. You see, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I hear the criticism all the time that the political parties have so much power. The political parties make the decision for the people. I disagree with that. Political parties are very important, of course, in political competition because they set the policy. They set the direction. But guess what? The people just don't nominate somebody who goes to the ballot box. If first past the post, proportional representation, the party sends the nominees there. And the sovereign decision to vote those people is in the hands of the electorate. They make the decision. So who's making the decision here? We have to be very sincere here. So, finally, honorable members, Sierra Leone has made remarkable progress and sticking together after the dark years of the Civil War. That makes us a unique people, a resilient people. We don't want to go back to the dark days of history. Let's build institutions that promote inclusion rather than exclusion. And for this reason, Mr. Speaker, I humbly submit and close at this juncture that it's only the proportional representation that will return Sierra Leone to its past glory, that will unite Sierra Leone, that bring us all together. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Well done. Well done. Oh, no. Well done.
Honorable Daniel Krumah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is indisputable that today is a historic day. As the historians write, they will pay special attention to the proceedings of today. Because a day to shape the future of this country. And we on this side will do so with no partisan politics. During the board declaration, I learned a physiology which, from my primary school days to the date of the board declaration, I thought otherwise. Only from that day, I learned that particular physiology. I used to say, the phrase to say, you disagree to agree is the correct phrase. Let us disagree to agree. That was my understanding. But thank God for Dr. Lahad. She was present Dr. Abbas Modu was present. And after some heated arguments, the professor of English, Honorable SDB, our former speaker, was consulted. And they all agreed that the correct phrase is you disagree to agree. As a speaker, honorable members, I want that modus to be established in our minds, our mindsets. Agree to disagree. Agree for me to disagree with you. And then you agree for me to disagree. I agree for you to disagree. So at the end of the day, we will be tolerant and we will put Sierra Leone first. I want to use this opportunity to thank the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice. I saw the passion in you. You made it, of which nobody can take it from you. Today is your day. I also want to recognize my comrade, Mohamed Kof Kamara. I was spoken to him directly. He murdered his sleep last night. He murdered his sleep. Just to ensure Sierra Leone get the best. He did not go there on behalf of his party. He went there on behalf of Sierra Leone. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we are here to amend the 1991 Constitution. The 1991 Constitution, in my opinion, has outlived its usefulness based on current trends. But what I observe is that the amendment before us is just like scoring 1 or 2 political points and then it's done. When you make laws to serve you, just you, and you forget the future, then it's dangerous. When that law is your servant, you will be the happiest. But the day that law becomes your master, you will regret everything. I was expecting a total repeal and replacement of the 1991 Constitution. There are so many current trends based on human rights, based on international best practice, that we need to incorporate. But now, I see only maybe just 2 scores. The rest are just addendum. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I can best liken this to when I was taking my O-level exams. I struggled for 10 years to get my requirements. But I never gave up. But you know what happened? Just for me to get English language, I will add economics, I will add government, I will add history. But I wanted only one. That was English language, that's all. That's what I see here in this field. we are unpredictable. We are unpredictable. So until we do so, I will still make my point because I cannot predict your hearts, your minds. The Search and Nomination Committee. The Search and Nomination Committee will have the mandate to nominate representatives of their various organizations or groups. And once those groups are nominated, that group that is called the committee. That committee now will nominate like three nominees. Under PPRC and under ECSN, they will nominate 3 nominees for appointment of His Excellency the President. But the issue now is, the President has the power to refuse all. He has the power. And nobody can take it from him. He has the power to refuse all. Yes, fine. But what was not provided for now is that in the event the President refuses all 3 nominees, what happened? So on that note, we cannot do drafting here. We can just agree in principle. The drafting can be done by the Attorney General's office. But in the event President decides to reject all 3, he may be tempted after that rejection by using urgency, by using other justification to do his own appointment on his own. Because you did not give me what I wanted. So we'll use the model stated in section 106 and 107 of the 1991 Constitution. That is in respect of passage of bills. Not all of that model, but for purpose of drafting, in this case, we can use section 106 and section 107. Under those provisions, Parliament, under section 105, has the supreme legislative authority to make laws. But the President is part of Parliament, so it's part of that legislative authority. So the procedure is, once we pass the 3rd reading, we now present it to His Excellency for his assent. But he has the power to reject it. So if he chooses to exercise that power, then the Constitution says he must give reasons. He must give reasons. So with those reasons, for this one, we cannot go to the next. But for Parliament, when His Excellency gives reasons, we present those reasons in the way here. So we are not at liberty to accept his reasons or to ignore him. Say, well, that if you say you are not accepting, that's your business. As far as we are concerned, we are proceeding with the provisions. We have that power. But by then we need 2/3. But we are not going to that extent. For purpose of drafting, we need to make provision in the event he rejects all 3 nominees for both PPRC and the ECSN. There must be provision for him to give reasons. And at the same time, renomination of new people still lie with those institutions. It must be stated. Renomination must continue to lie with those institutions. Let's say, for instance, SLASH. If SLASH is part of those groups, the first nominee of SLASH is rejected. Or when they are there, the first 3 they are rejected. The nomination should be done by the same SLASH, not His Excellency the President using urgency or emergency to just say appoint anyone he feels like. So assuming we go with his suggestion, then this one I will follow the queue. But since man is unpredictable, this is my point for you to take notes. In the event of any change of mind, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I always say this: I'm proud to be a man of the spirit, a a man of the Holy Spirit, a man of the Holy Spirit, a man of the Holy Spirit. Because the God I serve is a spirit. The God I serve is a spirit. And if you want to worship him, you worship him in spirit and in truth. When I look at your faces, right now, I can discern. I have the spirit of discernment. And I can see disappointed faces. I can discern disappointed faces right now. Disappointed because if you don't belong to the camp of our revered chairman of the SNPP, Mr. Martinez, you stand at risk. This is reality. That is one of the disadvantages of PR system. Nothing is hidden.
Hold on, Honorable.
This is not speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nanekuma. Honorable members, I recognize the presence of the Honorable Alusai Kane. I also recognize the presence of Honorable Kefala Conte. Honorable I recognize the presence of Mr. Joseph Fitzgerald Kamara. I recognize the presence of Mr. Ali Macaulay. I recognize the presence of Mr. Sidi Yaya Tunis. I recognize the presence of Mr. Balogu Kruma. I recognize the presence of Mr. Sori Suleiman Sise. I also recognize the presence of Mr. Mohammed Pope Kamara. I recognize the presence of Madam Judith B. Kose, I recognize the presence of Madam Haja Adama.
Join the Magic TV team. Magic TV, Sierra Leone's trusted information hub, is inviting applications from energetic, results-oriented, and self-motivated individuals to join our growing team as a marketer. Applicants will be responsible for marketing Magic TV's advertisement opportunities and sponsorships packages, promoting the station's television, digital and media services, identifying and securing new clients and business partnerships, selling airtime for advertisements, sponsored programs and business promotions, marketing live broadcast services, events coverage, documentaries and other media products, building and maintaining strong relationships with corporate organizations, NGOs, government institutions, and private businesses, meeting agreed marketing and sales targets. Requirements: minimum of a senior secondary school certificate, excellent communication and interpersonal skills, ability to market and negotiate with clients, self-motivated, honest, and target-driven. Previous marketing or sales experience will be an added advantage. What we offer are attractive commission and performance-based incentives, opportunity to work with our Sierra Leone's emerging television stations, professional growth and career development. Interested applicants should send their application letter and CV to magictvmedia.sl@gmail.com or drop the hard copy at number 22 Wilberforce Street in Freetown. Application deadline will be on Thursday, 30th July 2026. Magic TV, your trusted information hub. Join the Magic TV team. Magic TV, Sierra Leone's trusted information hub, is inviting applications from energetic, results-oriented, and self-motivated individuals to join our growing team as a marketer. Applicants will be responsible for marketing Magic TV's advertisement opportunities and sponsorships packages, promoting the station's television, digital and media services, identifying and securing new clients and business partnerships, selling airtime for advertisements, sponsored programs and business promotions, marketing live broadcast services, events coverage, documentaries, and other media products, building and maintaining strong relationships with corporate organizations, NGOs, government institutions, and private businesses, meeting agreed marketing and sales targets. Requirements: minimum of a senior secondary school certificate, excellent communication and interpersonal skills, ability to market and negotiate with clients, self-motivated, honest, and target-driven. Previous marketing or sales experience will be an added advantage. What we offer are attractive commission and performance-based incentives, opportunity to work with our Sierra Leone's emerging television stations, professional growth and career development. Interested applicants should send their application letter and CV to magictvmedia.sl@gmail.com or drop the hard copy at number 22 Wilberforce Street in Freetown. Application deadline will be on Thursday, 30th July 2026. Magic TV, your trusted information hub. Join the Magic TV team. Magic TV, Sierra Leone's trusted information hub, is inviting applications from energetic, results-oriented, and self-motivated individuals to join our growing team as a marketer.